Hey everyone, JagTagger93 here with another Doom Wod to review. Today's Wod is Time Lord by Jading Tsunami. It's an ambitious Wod that is split into 4 different sections, each taking place in separate time periods. 2 in the past, 1 in the future, and the last one also being in the future, I think. Some of the sections are better than others, and overall it's a pretty adequate Wod that really could have done with a bit more polish and a lot more time. The Wod opens in the Wild Wild West, and you are dueling a Hell Baron, it seems, west of the Pako style. However, this demon has no intentions of playing fair as you start with their typical pistol, and there's undead soldiers scattered around the area with a clear shot at you if you stick around in the open too much. Now, the obvious tactic here is to turn tail and look for something more substantial to put down the Hell Baron while taking out the other monsters. There's a very nice and thematically fitting super shotgun that you could find here. Now, along the way in this part, you'll find different skull panel switches which gradually lower a platform that has a soul sphere on it. Once the platform is accessible, it can teleport you to the next section. Each time period is bookended with these kinds of teleporters. Admittedly, I wasn't too thrilled with this Old West section. It looks well enough, like it should, but the scale is a bit small, I think, and the map has an invisible barrier around it which can get annoying as you'll accidentally bump into it while trying to evade enemy fire in the heat of combat. I mean, really, it wouldn't have been too much of a thing to just put a fence around where you can go, but yeah. To be clear, the area isn't badly designed at all. Quite the contrary, it's clear the author really put thought into designing this portion of the map. There's a saloon, an Old West jail, gallows, and other tropes and locations and sites you'd expect to see in the Wild Wild West. However, the gameplay here is a bit bland and a bit short, and not fully realized. Really begs to be its own map, actually, and be a bit bigger. The next section, in my opinion, is actually worse than the Old West section, and it's a shame because this section is made to look like a medieval castle, but it sorely lacks the depth needed here. With a medieval theme, you could do so much, so much more in a Doom Wod. The combat starts promising like a strip of Fruit Stripes gum. You know, you bite it and it's great flavor at first, you're enjoying it, but it quickly fades away way too soon, and that's exactly what happens here. The combat starts pretty heavy, pretty fast. Take out the demons around the castle walls first, then hit the switches to open the large gate, behind which is a Hulking Cyberdemon. If you make the mistake of flipping the switches before taking out all the enemies, you'll have to deal with the Cyberdemon while in the midst of combat with Revenants, Mancubi, and other things, which is a daunting task. Best to trigger the switches, the 2 on either side, open that large door, then take out the Cyberdemon. And this area is really the best realized section of the Wod, but it's very brief, very small. And again, with a medieval setting, you could really do so much more in Doom. You really can. And again, this is another portion that really begs to be in its own separate map. Instead, it's way too fleeting. So, thankfully, the next section you go to is the best portion of the map, in my opinion. Here it appears we're like in the future, and it's a future overrun with arachnotrons. The environment-based gameplay is much tighter here, and there's some really tricky encounters. During my first playthrough, I died to a pair of Archviles, and in this room it's very tricky because when you're taking on the Archviles, you're kind of in this little section. It's kind of hard to describe, you have to play it or just look here, but you're in this section where the ground is beveled and you're kind of stuck in a little gap. And I could jump, but I don't think this map was made with jumping in mind, so you're kind of stuck there in the open, having to face these 2 Archviles. I was able to take them down easy enough in my second attempt, though. I remembered the invulnerability spear from the medieval section, grabbed it, beelined for the Archviles, and squared up with a pair of them, and after that, things were pretty simple, but still very interesting. The area offered a lot of very interesting sights, very ominous looking panels, and I was wondering what the next section would be like, and I was not really disappointed, even though the next section is admittedly very simple. But again, like I've said a million times reviewing Doom and Quake content, if you give me a little bit, I'll make an entire story out of it. And I see what the author is going for here, thematically, and I really appreciate it. So the last section, you're on a planet, I assume, where the ground is caked and layered of viscera, gore, guts, and skulls pile the sides of you all around, and there's a large spider mastermind in front of you. So I'm to assume that the future here is one where arachnotrons have taken over Earth, humanity has been wiped out, and a spider mastermind is ruling over all of them. So I'm seeing a progression in these last 2 maps where the Arachnotrons invaded a UAC facility, and then a few years later they're successful, and all of Earth has been wiped out, all the infrastructure wiped out, all the buildings gone. All that's left is this barren and dark planet with a mastermind ruling over it. So very grim, really appreciate it, and I would love a series of maps made with this idea in mind. But the gameplay here again is pretty simple. Take out the Spider Mastermind and you're done. Now overall this WOD has a very interesting conclusion, some interesting bits, but the early portions really aren't quite there. Also, I'm confused at the thematic progression here. Now, if we're time traveling from past to future, I would think we're going in a linear manner, right? If so, the medieval period should really be before the Old West section. I mean, I guess there's really no reason why we couldn't go back to the Middle Ages from the Old West and then leap forward to the future, but whatever. The Spider Demon Apocalypse was a really cool touch. So, Time Lord earns a 6 out of 10 for me, and since it's named Time Lord, I'll throw in a single sonic screwdriver for an overall score of 62%. It's a good WOD, not great, pretty good. There's some really great ideas here. I appreciate the attention to theme, but this WOD just begs to be divided into 4 separate fully realized maps. If so, I think I would have enjoyed this one a lot more. And that is it. Thank you all for watching. This is JagTagger93 signing out. You all have a good one.